So Keith, congratulations.
Thank you very much. Very excited.
Wonderful, wonderful to see you as the first WFA Global Marketer of the Year. And as always, what's the most simple thing that you're proud of that you've done in this last year?
I think one of the most exciting things that we did as Unilever was around the hashtag Unstereotype Alliance. So a couple of years ago, we started doing some work at looking at advertising across the industry, not just Unilever. And we found that 40% of women didn't identify themselves in the ads. And when we looked a bit closer, it's hardly surprising because only 3% of the time women are in obvious leadership positions. Only 2% of the time in ads are they obviously intelligent, and only 1% of the time do they obviously have a sense of humour. And that doesn't reflect any of the women I know.
Likewise.
And so we started looking at more progressive advertising, less gender stereotyping within Unilever. And surprise, surprise, the more progressive advertising tested better and performed better. It's more aspirational. So this is not just a sort of moral case, there's an economic case for it too. And then last year at the Cannes Lions Festival of Creativity, we launched the Unstereotype Alliance, of which of course WFA is part of. And I invited UN Women to lead it. Didn't want this to be a sort of a Unilever show. I'm a co-chair for the first year, but along with Fiona Carter from AT&T, Michael Roth from IPG. But what was great is the breadth of people there. As I said, the WFA were there, but also we had Facebook and Google and Twitter and Alibaba. We also had other advertisers, Procter & Gamble, J&J, Mattel, Diageo. And then we had all the big agencies, so Martin Soft from WP, Michael Roth from IPG, we had Havas and Publicis, anyway, so real broad spectrum. And everyone has bought into this notion of collectively we're going to unstereotype advertising. We're going to start with gender-based advertising, but you can see it going beyond that, and it's a really exciting initiative. And
fantastic initiative.
We've got our sort of whole philosophy together. We've got research going in place so we can actually measure our progress. Great believer in to measure what you treasure, and we'll get going, and it's exciting.
Yeah, I think a fantastic initiative because we've seen through our membership the impact that has country by country. So some great work happening, not surprisingly, up in Scandinavia, who of course grasped these things earlier, but I look forward to that impacting far and wide. I'm talking to you just off the back of a very impactful speech you gave, and obviously touching on the digital duopoly, but beyond your 3 V's, I think you've also added in the very interesting notion of ethical protection. Could you tell us a bit more about that?
Well, I think that what's happened, we've been talking about the challenges in the digital supply chain for some years. In fact, I've been using the 3 V's of viewability, verification and value for over 4 years now. Really trying to say what are the viewability standards, third-party verification, don't mark your own homework or grade your own homework, as they say in the US, and get the right sort of value. But that was really talking about it as an industry issue. But what's happened, it's tipped over now into a society issue. And I think that changes things a lot. And we saw, I was at the World Economic Forum in Davos a few weeks ago, and we saw the Edelman Trust Barometer, trust really dipping. They've been doing this for 30 years, but it really dipped. And across the 4 pillars, which was business and government and media and civil society. And in the US, across those things, 37 percentage point drops across the different things, a massive drop. And you saw a separation for the first real time between trust in social media, down at 30%, and then on the other side, traditional media up at 58%. Good for you for journalists, people are starting to look at journalists again. But really concerning about social media, because once trust starts getting eroded, we've got all sorts of problems. Consumers trust brands to deliver a value, a performance, a fragrance, a taste, or whatever. Without trust, you don't get brands. And in a data-driven world, no trust will equal no data, which will equal no brand. So, as a branded-led business, we need to make sure we really focus on building trust back in and partnering with the social media and digital companies to get there. I wasn't heckling in any way about saying ultimatum setting. No, right the opposite. I think we all need to lean in. yourself in your day job
Yep.
as well, lean in and really help this industry get to where we all want it to be. I mean,
Yep.
there are unintended consequences from how it's grown, and now we need to address it. This year, 2018, will either be the year we start building back trust, or right the opposite.
Yeah, couldn't agree more. And on your data point, we've talked to the WFA about GDPR coming, a year of transparency, particularly transparency with media agencies as well. Can you talk a little bit about your readiness for GDPR and your thinking on transparency?
Yes, so we're ready for GDPR. I have to say it's been a big journey. I actually now have a legal person in my team. So that's the first time I've had a marketing organisation with a legal expert inside as such. And we've done a huge amount of training, and of course, whatever the laws of any land, Unilever will make sure that we are fit for purpose, well ahead of that law being enacted. I think that as far as you say media transparency, I think it's an area we've worked a lot on over the years, and I know there was a lot of talk recently, particularly in the US with the ANA, talking about sort of dubious practices, etc. All the ones that were raised, we feel very happy and we're ahead of. We have a very good, transparent relationship on our media agencies, but we've been working it for years and years and years. And let's be clear, it's not helped by the digital supply chain, which is with a bit of a swamp. So trying to work out how to do that also leads to the ability to cloud the situation through media agencies, etc. This is an area that I have a huge focus on. We are the second largest advertiser in the world. We spend far too much money. You can only focus on one thing in media. It'd be to make sure that your money is working as hard as to get to where you want to get to. I feel really happy with where we are. We have multiple levels of checks. And a lot of things I saw coming out of all these analysis, I could go, no, we've got that one covered, we've got that one covered. I'm a bit OCD when it comes to this, but having said that, it's probably better that way, than the other way. A bit of paranoia doesn't do you any harm. And I think there's going to be more in this area. The work that you do at the WFA, I think, is really helpful. And I'd encourage all advertisers, no matter how big your budget is, as I suppose the smaller your budget, it's even more important not to have someone abusing it or misusing it. So I think lean into some of the best practices and insights that you guys have, and be that little bit paranoid, and that way I think you'll get the best bang for your buck.